Hello, everyone. It's Whitney Wiley, and thank you for joining me for 30 Days of Habits. And today I am joined by Linda Johansen-James. How are you, Linda?
I'm doing great. Whitney, thanks for having me.
I am happy to have you. I am excited about your goal, and it is not just about your habit. Rather, it's not just about setting goals, but it's about the importance of writing them down.
Yes.
And you've said that you have used them both in your personal life and your business. And I think one of the things that business people may do is that we set a goal, right, to have a business, and then maybe forget to actually set business goals. So let's talk a little bit about that and the importance, particularly of writing down your goals.
Yeah, well, I'd love to. Thank you. I appreciate it. I, I haven't been an entrepreneur my whole life, but maybe I guess I have. But one of the very first times I guess I really remember writing down my goals and visualizing them was when my daughter was really very little. And I realized that I talked a lot about goals and what I wanted to do, but I always forgot what they were. I could never remember all the goals that I set. So I started taking these little stickums, which, by the way, I have them everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. They're in my goal book.
And nobody makes fun of you for using them and
Yes,
listing
they
them.
yes they do. They say put it on your computer. I'm like, I don't want to put it on my computer. I want to put it on my computer. I want to look at it. I had them all
Did the
over my
same thing.
you do see, I love it. I had them all over my walls, but I thought, I better make my office look a little nice. So I guess for me, it's about setting the goal, but it's also about visualizing it. So, nowadays they have these visualization boards, and my daughter's
Right.
made one and all my friends. But so I guess it's important to write them down. It's important to visualize. I used to hang pictures of the goals that I wanted, but
Yes.
but I think it's great to write down your goals, but you also have to follow up. So I write down my goals in my book, and I number them, and then I check them off as I reach them. And whether it's my personal goals or my business goals, I do the same thing. So then the first thing I do when I get up is I have my coffee, check my emails, and then I write my goals for that day. Now, Damon John will tell you that you should write your goals like a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance. I,
Okay.
I my goals change consistently, and so I like to do it daily. And if there's some goals that I didn't reach over the past week or the past month, then I move them forward
Okay.
so that they're always in front of me. I guess I have to look at them every day. So I do it for my personal life, and I do it for my business life.
No, I think that's awesome. I used to say that I was a goal setter. And then I realized that, yes, I set lots of goals, but I didn't necessarily achieve lots of them. Big things, yes, but
Yes.
some other things, not so much. And then I realized that writing them down, right?
Yeah.
There was something about getting them out of your head, out of my head, on the paper, made a huge difference. And then I started reading about the psychology of that. So, is
Oh, I
that
love it.
something that you learned solely by trial and error, or did you get tips and hints from, seminars or other people that were doing things?
Well, I think probably from my mom. I think she was always a goal setter. And so I learned from a very young age. And I don't think we called it goal setting then. I think, it was more around saving your money for what it is that you wanted. They
Right.
didn't call it setting goals, but in hindsight, now that's really what we were doing. So my mother would say, well, you have to save your money in order to get that doll that you wanted, or that game, or that bike.
Right.
And so she would have us write it down, and then she would say, okay, where are you? How much money have you saved so far? So I guess, that really was goal setting. And so I learned that if I wanted something, I had to work for it. So I guess to me, setting goals is something that's achievable for you, but you also want to reach for something, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I remember 20 years ago, I wanted a car, and there was a specific car that I wanted, and I had a picture of it on my refrigerator. I wrote it
I
down.
love that
Way.
story in your chapter.
Yeah, I mean, it was way out of reach, right? And so, it was like 10 years later, and I finally ended up buying that car, but it never was out of my goal list. I mean, it was always there. I knew it was a stretch, but eventually, right? Eventually, you work hard, you look at your goals, and you say, you know what, I'm going to really work for that goal. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it becomes it's in your head, it's something, it's in your heart, it's something you want, you write it down, and then you take the actions necessary to make it happen.
exactly. You just, I mean, you just said a key point right there, the actions necessary. So you can write it down, and every day you can write it down on that same piece of paper, but right? But if you don't do anything about it, right? If you don't save
Right.
your money, if you don't work towards, if you don't look forward to, it's just going to stay on that piece of paper. And then we get frustrated and aggravated,
Absolutely.
and then we stop writing our goals down. And
And
I
say that,
have,
oh, writing it down didn't work, right? It didn't work.
exactly.
No, you didn't work.
And I think, yeah, I love that, Whitney. I'm going to write that down. You didn't. I like that a lot. And I think you have to remember that for your personal life and your business life, you have to do the same. Like for my business life, I write down how many new clients I want to bring in or what I want my sales to be. I write that down every single day, and I work towards that every day. So we have to do it in both parts of our life, because if we don't, it becomes too easy to forget about doing it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And
So
make it part of your everyday habit. And I
just
always like to do things at the same time, so I get up, have my coffee, sit, check, and then do goals. So if
do
you make it
you do any of that the night before to kind of have it ruminating or in your head, and then when you wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, I'm going to actually finalize it,
I do.
or okay,
And at the end of the day, before, if it's business goals, at the end of the day, when I'm ready to turn off my computer, go have a nice glass of wine, I
I like you, Linda.
I know. I look at my goals and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll put a check mark next to the ones I did. I'll put an arrow for the ones that I'm going to move towards, the next day. And sometimes your goals, sometimes they're just not attainable, or maybe they change. So if I'm not going to move that goal forward, I either cross it off, or I say, well, I'm going to save that till next month, and I move it on to my next
Okay,
month's goals. So
cool.
yeah,
And so
everybody has
that
their own way.
and that way, if there are steps or smaller bits that you have to do for a bigger goal, you can
Yes.
keep track of it that way as well.
Exactly.
Cool. So
Exactly.
let's talk a little bit about your unhabit, which is to stop letting fear get in the way. Can you tell me of a time where you let fear stop you from doing something that you really wanted to do,
Oh,
and how you
many.
got over that?
I'm trying to I'm trying to think. Yeah, listen, I've had a lot of opportunities, and I think for me it's been about not only being afraid of, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work? What if I what if everybody knows about it and they're judging me on how unsuccessful that was? And I guess for me, that's really the big part. And especially with my new business, there have been opportunities that have come my way that I've passed on because I've been afraid, because
Mm-hmm.
it was something new. And I think for all of us, if it's something that we understand and that we're used to doing, I think that's one thing. But if it's something that's brand new and it's outside your comfort zone,
Right.
and I don't, and I think I've always been a bit afraid my whole life. I think I've been a bit afraid of what people will think when I do it. And I think if you're coming off of something that's been extremely successful and you're trying something new, then maybe the fear is a little greater,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so what I try, my daughter she lives by the motto that, listen, I'm gonna try everything, and I'm not gonna be afraid to do it. And I don't know if that's because she's younger than me or what, but I look at that and I think that's the way I want to be. Is I don't want to be afraid
Yeah.
because it's something new and it's something outside my comfort zone. And so I'm right now launching into a couple of other new businesses that are out of my comfort zone. The original donut bar, this new concept that I'm launching, I know nothing about food and beverage, nothing, except I know how to eat and drink.
A donut
And I
bar?
love donuts,
A
right? I
donut
mean, think
bar.
about it. But it was something that was so different for me. And I have two really great partners. They have experience, but I don't. And I was really afraid to take that step. And I had to do a lot of self-talk. I talk to myself a lot. Thankfully, I don't answer myself, but I think you have to do a lot of self-talk
Right.
to, right, to keep yourself not afraid. So I just jumped right in with both feet. We're opening in a few months,
So
and
awesome.
I'm still nervous, but I didn't let fear get in the way of starting it.
That's good. That's good. It is one of those things that it can cripple you or it could spur you on, right? And so it depends. And I think you're right. It's the self-talk that really can go right. And if we're in our head, we can talk ourselves out of something. But just as we can talk ourselves out of something, we can talk ourselves into something.
Oh,
And
without question.
so
And here's the deal. So what if it fails? I mean, so what,
exactly,
right? That's
exactly.
always been the big thing for me, fear and failure, the two F's in my life. And I'm not exactly sure why, in all honesty, but I think that the fear of failure. And so I read a lot of books, and, I quote Edison in there, that the poor guy tried it 1,000 times before he got the light bulb. And now look, we have light bulbs everywhere. I just keep thinking to myself, so what, Linda, who is it that you're trying to impress, or who is it that you're trying to prove something to? And who I'm trying to prove it to is me, not anybody else. So I
Exactly.
think we shouldn't let fear get in our way. And, I look at Roger and what he did with, I mean, seriously, and how he changed his business by doing something so out of the box, right?
Right.
And every time I watch him, I had the pleasure to meet him when I was at Leah's in January. Of course, he's bigger than life, as you know. But look at what he's done, and he didn't
Absolutely.
let fear get in his way, right? So,
I
um,
think the question that you pose is the perfect question. And so if you've got this fear and you ask yourself, what is it that I'm fearing? You can just say, so what, right? If it's
so
about
what?
failure, if you fail, so what? If I fail, so what?
Yeah.
If I fail, get up and pick up and move on. You can reassess. Was this the right thing? Was this the right approach? Is this the right time? Whatever
Could I
the
have done
question,
something differently?
exactly, whatever you need to ask, and then just say, so what, right?
Exactly. Which
And
is what I
so,
tell, it's interesting because it's what I tell my clients all the time, because my business model is testing products to retail, right?
right,
And so there's not always a place for them in brick and mortar retail. So the reason that you test is what? To see. So that's what I tell them all the time. It may work or it may not. Either way, we're going to give it 100%. And then you're going to know for sure what your next step is. So that's how I look at my business now, and how I look at testing new products is, okay, Linda, so what's the worst that can happen? You could be
right,
wildly successful, or you could move on to the next thing.
exactly. I think that's a good attitude, is to just be curious about it.
Yes,
Look at it always as a test and ask exactly that. What's the worst thing can happen? Or what's the
the
best that could
best thing.
happen? Right? Which is an even
Yep.
better question to ask. So before we go, do you have any final words about either of these habits, the habit or the unhabit, that you would like to leave our viewers with?
Well, I guess I would say that don't look at goal setting as a task. Look at it as a pathway to what it is that you really desire and want. And I think of it that way. And don't let your fears get in the way of attaining those goals, which I guess is why my two chapters for me really go together is because one of them is about fear and the other one is about not being afraid and setting your goal. So I guess I would say, don't be afraid, go for it, write it down, visualize it, and be happy with the results that you get.
I love it. Absolutely. That's really good advice. And Linda, thank you for joining us. Everyone, if you have not, and if you have not got the
Mm,
book yet, I mean, come on, we're halfway
really.
through our 30 days of habits, and you don't, oh, beautiful. There you go.
I
She's
bought
got a
30 of
physical
them,
one.
sending them to everybody.
Mine's on Kindle. I'm waiting for my box to arrive. But if you don't have your copy yet, I don't know, what are you waiting for? Don't be afraid. Order it today. The link is in the post. Linda, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining
Wendy.
me. Have
Pleasure.
a fabulous rest of your day. And
You too.
everyone
Thank
else, get
you.
the book, pick a habit,
Yes.
implement it, and let's achieve together. So
Let's
have
do
a
it.
great day. Thanks.